Hello viewers, this is Scyther88 back with another video. Today we'll be going over a fundamental scientific skill that is often undermined or not talked about at all. Yet it's a skill that takes a lot of practice to master and is important in many career paths, not just scientific research. Today we'll go over how to properly give a 12-minute talk at a conference. These 12-minute format talks are the standard at these conferences, and if you haven't been at one yet, it's usually a 12-minute presentation with 3 minutes of questioning in the end. Now, I am really tired of seeing many bad or poor presentations at these scientific conferences. I would say 95% of presentations are just not very good at all. I am not saying I am the master at presenting, but I do have a lot of background training and experience. So I am quite confident on what works and what doesn't work based on numerous talks. So today I hope I can give you some advice and some tips with your next talk. Okay, let's just go ahead and dive right in. How to give a proper 12-minute scientific talk. We need to address an issue first, and that's actually a pretty serious issue, is that the average attention span of a person is actually 8 seconds short. We have a dilemma here, right? So how do we get people to pay attention for 12 minutes if the average attention span is 8 seconds? I'm going to tell you this right now. It is not an impossible task. It is very possible, but again, it is very difficult. So let's go over some tips on how to accomplish this goal, keeping in mind that the attention span of a person is only 8 seconds. Okay, so there are two components to a good talk. We have oratory skills. Basically, it's how you present, which includes verbal, which is your speech, and nonverbal cues, such as hand gestures. The second component is content, is what you present, right? So it's what is basically what your topic that you're presenting, basically the stuff in your slides. And for the most part, in my opinion, your oratory skills is more important than your content. I've been in speech competitions back in the past that test your oratory skills by pulling random topics from a hat and then preparing a speech around it. So basically what I learned from that is you can pretty much make any topic interesting for the audience as long as you can present it in a good way. So first, let's go over some oratory do's and do nots, okay? And to test myself at this point, I will not have a script to go over. So I usually write scripts. Well, for these newer videos anyways. My older videos from a few years ago, I didn't have any scripts. But right now, I write scripts so I can sound more professional. But since this video is all about speech, I will not use a script for the rest of this presentation. So the rest of the video is going to be completely impromptu. Okay. So first point of the oratory do not is do not sound indifferent or bored. Trust me on this. If you use a monotone voice, if you don't use any kind of voice inflections, if you're bored or if you seem bored, your audience is going to be bored. So instead, do show enthusiasm. Use voice inflections. What do I mean by voice inflections? It's basically what I'm doing right now. Show exclamation, show some energy. For example, don't just say something like, do not sound indifferent or bored. Do show enthusiasm. Use voice inflection. See, that's very monotone, very dry, right? You want to put some energy behind what you are saying. It's very important. Next, do not mumble or use unnecessary filler, such as like, you know, stuff like that. Well, see there, I just did it again. I said is actually another one of them. I didn't put it on the slide. But the point is, this is very difficult for people, and if you next time we go and listen to someone talk, count the number of times they make these verbal filler, and it's going to be an astronomical number. I promise you that. So do not use these words. It makes you sound unprofessional. So instead, you want to speak clearly and concisely and project your voice, especially if there's no microphone or if there's people sitting in the back. Okay. Do not fidget or make other distracting movements. Don't tap your feet, don't sway, don't fidget. Don't make all these other extraneous movements with your body. So instead, you can use hand gestures to complement your speech if you're pointing something out or if you're emphasizing something. People do like that though, but don't make motions just for sake of making motions. Of course, if you can't control your hands, if you just tend to move them around, put them in your pocket. If you can't stop fidgeting. Okay. Next, do not pretend the audience is invisible. I know some people have been told that one way of presenting is basically face your PowerPoint presentation the whole entire time without looking at the audience. I really don't like that. This is a matter of opinion, but I really don't like that. To me, that just shows that the person is not very confident in what they're projecting. So instead, do make contact with the audience from time to time, eye contact specifically. Now, you don't have to stare at them, to make them feel awkward or uncomfortable, but make eye contact from time to time, maybe during transitions of your slides or when you're emphasizing a point. It really does help kind of draw the audience in a bit more. Okay, now let's move on to some content do's and do nots. Okay, do not give a long-winded introduction. Okay, please don't do this. 2 slides max. Remember, you have a 12-minute time limit here. And you don't have to put everything in your introduction. Just have the bare minimal amount so people can understand what you're doing. If they're interested, they'll ask you later, either during questioning or after the conference or during some social events during the conference. So you don't have to give them everything during your talk. So instead, use bullet points and minimize words. Remember, for presentations, less is more. Okay. Do not use graphics or cartoons that cannot be explained quickly. Again, this kind of goes along with the introduction. Any type of visual aid that you're using, some kind of pathway that you're trying to explain, please simplify it. People cannot assimilate all that information in such a short amount of time unless they're extremely familiar with it, which is unlikely. Maybe there might be a couple of people in the audience that can do that, but majority, there's just no way. So instead, make sure your graphics can be viewed from all distances and make sure that they're simple. Especially for people in the back who tend to sit at conferences, people tend to sit in the back. So make sure they're simple and clear enough that they can see them as well. Okay, this is a big one here. Do not flood your slides with data. Please, please, please do not do this. This is a personal pet peeve of mine. No one's going to be able to assimilate 2 plots, 3 charts, a bunch of graphs all jammed into one single slide. It's impossible. They need to first of all understand what you're saying, look at it, interpret it, and then understand it all within 30 seconds to a minute. That's humanly impossible. So instead, use one figure. I'm telling this guys right now, this works. One figure, either one graph, one plot, or one chart per slide. 2 if they're absolutely max, okay? If they are simple enough. We usually stick with 1. Again, you don't need to show off all your data. There's no point of doing that. If they're interested, they'll ask you for this during questioning or during social events, and you can explain more or show them there. Not during the presentation, though. Do not go over the time limit, okay, guys? This is another thing. This is extremely annoying and rude. Alright, to the person after you, it's just a really bad habit to form. So instead, practice, practice, and practice to make sure you can cover everything in timely fashion. I know a lot of the reason why people do go over the time limit is they haven't practiced enough, or they have too much slides, too much information. Make everything simple enough to make sure that you can cover everything in a time limit, because this is very rude to the person to the person after you and also to the audience. It's not a good habit to form. Also, during questioning, do not make things up on the fly. If you don't know, just say so, okay? Because if you do make things up, then people will know and it's going to look bad. But instead, do practice for possible questions. Do prepare for possible questions. Before your presentation, you should think, well, okay, maybe this part of my presentation might be a little bit confusing, or this part might draw in some questions, and try to anticipate them before your presentation begins so I can do sufficient research for them. Alright, so some final tips. To do a good presentation, you want to be an actor or an actress, okay? Pretend that you're a famous movie star or or a movie star that you admire. It's all about acting and putting on a show, right? You want to draw your audience in. You don't want to push them away, and you don't want to sound disinterested. You want to be confident but not arrogant. So please watch your tone and voice. That can really put off the audience if you're projecting the wrong tone. Also, use humor if you can. The humor is a big bonus in presentations, but again, it's a bit tricky to pull off because humor is definitely very subjective. So if you can pull it off, go for it. But if not, it's okay. You don't have to do it. But I usually try to insert some kind of humor in my presentation as a joke or some kind of situation. But you don't have to do this. But lastly, practice, practice, practice. The only way to master a presentation, although it seems simple, it is technically very difficult actually. Remember, 8 seconds of attention span, only 12-minute presentation, you gotta hold them in. So, practice. Alright guys, well, I hope you found this video helpful and for these tips. And I really appreciate you guys watching. If you liked it, please like this video and subscribe to me. Thank you so much. Until next time, guys, this is Scyther88 signing off.